Welcome guys to Dufresne, this is Alex. Today I'll show you how to do a brake maintenance on your car without having to spend much money on tools. And you can do that with basic tools and basic things around the house. So basically the first step is to remove one of these bolts. I usually go for the one at the bottom. You don't need to remove the one at the top. The next step after you remove the bolt is to actually flip the caliper. If the caliper is a little bit seized up and you can't just flip it by hand, you can use just a flat screwdriver. You put it right at the bottom there and you just kind of pry it open, just like so. And you remove it by sliding it backwards, so inwards the car. And then as you can see, the top pin is still on and the bottom pin is right here. Because we removed that one bolt, we can remove that one pin there that's not stayed on the caliper. So once the caliper is removed, either you can use a hook or you can use a coat hanger that you just unbent and then you pull it through a hole, and then you can just hook the caliper onto the suspension, and that will avoid putting pressure on the brake line. Alright, so once the caliper is removed, you remove the pad, and just like so. And then there's three things you want to do on the pads. First of all, you want to clean this groove right here. So you either use a flat screwdriver or something sharp, and you just scrape that brake dust out of there, because that's what's allowing the pad to breathe properly. And then you want to grab a 40 or 80 grit sandpaper and just go lightly over. And then, as you can see, the difference between the two. So there's one that's shiny, and then this one is a little bit dull. So that means we've removed a slight coat of compound, which is going to allow the pads to gain a little bit more grip back again. So once that's done, you want to grab an old toothbrush or just a brush you can find around and go over the pad, remove all the dust, grease if there's any from the last time you did the maintenance or somebody else did. And then you want to do that to both pads. Clean them up real good. And then you want to go in a groove again like this. If you have access to a metal saw, just like so, you can use that, and it's way more easier that way. But like I said, you can use any sharp objects and just go in the groove as many times as you need. Just get that dust out of there. And then the next step is to actually clean the hardware on the brake caliper itself, which means those little metal shims at the top and bottom, inside and out. You want to remove dust, you want to remove old grease that's there. Alright, so once you've removed all the dirt and grease, the old grease that was on there, you can grab your new grease. You want to slightly put some grease at the bottom there, top there, and then inside out as well. Once this is done, the next step is to actually go back to the pads, and this one is started quickly, and then grab your pads, and you want to put just a tiny amount of grease on the tip there and tip there, just like so. Just don't need to put that much on it. And then place it back. The other one, same thing. Just put a slight touch of grease on there. I know we put some on there on the hardware already, but I like to put it on both if I can. Just a slight touch, because that means there's grease everywhere that needs to be greased. Because sometimes you can't go too far on the car itself, because you might hit the with your brush the rotor, and that will cause you to have to clean it again, and use some brake cleaner and just does a messy jobs. So you just put the pads back in place, just like so. And then the next step is to grab the same grease again and go on the back of the pad and just slightly apply some grease there too. That will avoid what we call low frequency squeal. So the caliper itself can be vibrating against the metal of the pads, and that will cause some noise at low speed. So when we're nearly stopped at a stop sign or lights, set of lights, we'll hear a little squealing sound coming from a car, you know, making us think that maybe our pads are worn out, which is usually not the case. When the pads are actually worn out, they make usually a stronger squeal, way louder, and or they'll make a grinding noise. So once this step is done, we'll go ahead and remove the pins from the bottom, and then once you have this pin, the bottom pin, you want to grab your grease. So I'm using the Clean Flow Easy Slide. I really like this product. It's really easy to use, and it lasts it lasts a good time. Usually you want to do this once a year, so this one is perfect. It lasts just a bit over a year with the test we've done. You can check that out in our previous video. So the pin is greased up, so just a slight coat of grease on it, and then you put it back in place. So that's done. And then the other pin is actually still on the caliper itself. So you want to grab your caliper and just move it like this so you can access your pin and just wipe it clean. And then same thing we'll go over with grease on it. Just slight touch of it. There we go. Just like so. And then you can grab your coat hanger, whatever you use to hold this thing in place, and remove it. Alright, and then you want to place the caliper back in place and push it down just like so. There you go. And then you want to grab your bolt, bottom one, and then screw it back in. One other thing, so if there's another step you can do if ever you have a little bit of ridge of rust around your rotor, either inside or out, or both of them. Usually the outside will have a stronger one. You can use either sanding paper and just sand it down so you'll bring your rotors flush again, and this will avoid any tear and wear, excessive tear and wear on the pad itself. Or you can use a hammer when the rust is flaking already. So when it's flaking, you just kind of hit it with the hammer slightly and it will just come off easily. And if it doesn't come off, there's no chunks falling on the ground, don't worry about it. Just go with the sandpaper and it will be fine. So that's just a little tip and tricks there. And mine is fine. My rotors are maybe a year old. Those are the basic quality we sell. Ultra, pretty good. Not much rust considering I'm living in Quebec, Canada. So they're pretty good. They don't have a big coating on it and just slight one, but it does the job. So we want to go ahead and apply some anti-seize on the hub. That will avoid the wheel sticking to the car, so next time I need to remove it, or if I'm on the side of the highway with a flat tire, I won't have to fight with the wheel coming off. I don't need to carry around a big hammer or a sledgehammer even in my trunk just to be able to remove the wheel. So I like to apply the anti-seize all the way around everywhere, because I don't have to worry about putting in the right place or not in the right place. Some cars you'll see the wheel stamp on the hub itself, which means you can just apply the grease where the triangle or whatever trapeze is going to be the shape is going to be printed on there. You can just apply the grease right there and then it'll be good to go. Once this is done, you want to use a torque wrench if possible. You can find the torque spec online, usually just by going on Google, and you can find, you type in the year, make, and model of your car, and you can usually you write torque spec next to it, front brakes, rear brakes, whatever, and you can usually find that information online. And usually it's between 20 and 30 foot-pound of torque. So I'm using a small one for this because I don't need the big one. And mine is actually 30 pounds, just around so. So you'll grab your socket, and then you want to tighten it until you hear a click. So this one is not really loud, but you can still hear it. So that means this is tight and it's not going to go anywhere on you. Alright, the next step would be to actually put the wheel back on and torque it to spec. You can actually find that spec too online, and it's usually easier to find that spec for the wheels than the ones for the brakes. Some cars are a little harder to find. So once this is done, you do both sides, same thing on both sides, and you're good to go. You can do that, the same thing at the back as well. So thank you guys for watching and have a great day.